Xenos Rampant, the rematch. These are the DoublePlusUltra Marines, the galaxy's finest warriors. 3 units of elite infantry, 1, 2, 3, and the big boy here is their leader. In our last episode, we showed how these guys, although they completely dominate the battlefield from a tactical perspective, can be defeated. The answer, of course, is to cheat. And by cheat, I mean arrange things strategically to put them on the back foot. Almost literally. These guys are super tough, they're hard to kill, and they really punch hard, but they can also be very slow. The secret to beating these guys is get yourself in a position where victory depends on the swiftest, not the strongest. The way we illustrated that was by cheating and kind of cutting back on a few rules. Now this time around, we're going to negate even that advantage, and we'll play the game according to the rules as written, which in a way helps negate that ability to just ultimately defeat these guys. Last time we played scenario golf from the main rulebook, which is a fighting retreat. We're going to play that exact same scenario, slightly different terrain. We'll get to that in a second. But we're also going to do a very important thing. We're going to dice off for who's the attacker and the defender. Now, with that said, I'm also going to revise these guys' profile. Last time around, we had them up-armored. It slows them down and makes them almost impossible to remove even a single model. This time, we're going to remove the heavy armor, and we're going to give them jump packs. They will have special insertion, which may completely obviate the need for the game at all. Again, we'll get to that. Heavy armor costs 2 army points. The special insertion, which we'll call it like single-use jump packs, that costs 1 point, which leaves us with 1 left for exosuits. These guys are going to move at a total of 12 inches per turn. The exosuits give you 4 extra inches of movement. Of course, we're playing 15 millimeter with our Coruscant miniatures. On this side of the ledger, that means they'll be able to move 6 inches per turn. So a lot more mobility. Now they're fast, strong, and hard to kill. Still might not be enough, depending on which side of the battle they're on. Before we get to that, let's take a look at their opponents real quick. The big fella in the front is Xeno the Morph. As you might expect, he is a greater xenomorph. Reduced model unit. He only has 5 strength points. But he is a demon lord of hell, meaning he has all the powers of the greater xenomorphs, plus he is fearsome. When you are attacked in melee by this guy, because of his big flaming sword here, it's not flaming right now, but his big flaming whip, which also wasn't flaming, but you get the idea. When he attacks you, if he does any damage to your unit, your courage test is at -1. He's also a flyer. I don't have the wings on this classic figure, but he can fly, and he's all. Now the great thing about demonic, and this will apply to our zombie hordes as well. I've got 1-2 zombie hordes in the army list. They are mobs, 15 miles. I got to get some Sabbath bases to help move these guys around a little bit during the actual fight. They have 15 strength points. And the thing with demonic is not only are they fearsome, so the zombie hordes, the poor lost souls summoned from hell, will also cause fear when they charge you in melee. But once they're also unstable because they are not of this world, because they belong in the realm of pure chaos. Once they take a single strength point, from there on to the rest of the battle, if you roll doubles when activating these units, you take a number of strength points of damage equal to the number that you rolled. So if you roll a pair of 4s for your activation, you still get to act, but you take 4 strength points. So they're hard to begin with, but they do tend to melt away. I also have a Dark Psyker here. He's kind of a Death Lich Lord. He has 2 powers. And which ones did I decide on for him? Terror, so that suppresses a unit on a 7-up, and then Teleport. So on a 7-up, he can move either himself or another unit up to 2d6 inches in any direction. Oh, it's 2d6 divided by 2, though, in this case. Then, he is also, I bought Fanatic, so his courage goes down by 1. In this case, his courage will be 3. And our last unit here is our Death Cultists, who are rated as Berserk Infantry. They're actually Fanatics, and again, I bought the Fanatic trait. So normally, Berserk Infantry have a courage of 4. These guys have a courage of 3, and I think everything else is about the same. The only 2 guys with Wild Charge are the Fanatics and our Xeno the Morph. There's our 2 sides. Now let's take a look at how we're changing the terrain, and we'll figure out who the attacker is. But before we do that, we also have to figure out our leader traits, because some of those leader traits can affect the die roll for determining the attacker. Let's do the traits first. We're going to roll 2 dice. The blue die will be for the leader of the Sons of Legally Distinct Robot Guilty Man, and the red die will be for our Demon Lord. There are 4 different kinds of traits you can roll for: aggressive, tactical, strategic, and warlord. We're going to go with warlord for this guy. He doesn't care so much about the lives or unlives of his peasant servitors. And then this guy, of course, is going to be tactical. We'll give him that benefit of the doubt as well. So for tactical, friendly units do not receive the +1 modifier to ordered activations. He's indecisive. Normally, when you're within 6 inches of your commander, you get +1 to your activations. Oopsie doopsie. Oh, the good news for these guys is they get free on everything except move. So they just don't get the +1 if they're close to their commander. And the 3 for the warlord means the commander's unit may take 1 move, shoot, or attack as an additional free action. So he's elite. Normally, oh wow, that's pretty good for him actually. Normally, he has move as his free action, and we can take 1 other free action. And because he doesn't have any missile weapons, we are going to take his melee as his ordered action. So Xeno the Morph doesn't have to roll. He gets to act every single turn, which is appropriate. Let's go ahead and dice off for the attacker first. Remember that the high roller will be the attacker. He picks 1 table edge. We'll talk about terrain in a second. The attacker deploys all of his forces along that table edge within 3 inches, and then the defender deploys within 3 inches of a center line running down the center of the table. So we roll a dice, and as is traditional here in the House of Wargaming, we begin with a tie roll. The blue will be the attacker. All right, so now our Sons of Robot Guilty Men are going to be pursuing, it'll be the same scenario, just different terrain, and our boys in blue are going to be a lot more speedy this time around. So they should have an easier time catching up to the forces of hell. I guess the story is that the forces of hell have already been defeated somewhere else, and Xeno the Morph is trying to preserve enough of his forces to remain a threat, somewhere else down the line. So we have a strategic situation in which this tactical battle plays a very important role. But also remember, our elite units don't have to deploy on the table. And so they won't. Well, 1 is going to deploy in this building here. Remember that buildings reduce your attack and defend ability to 5 up, but because it's hardcover, your armor becomes 4. I believe our elite infantry have fleet-footed, so they can move through rough growing, but whatever. So we got a couple of buildings over on this side. The large brush blocks movement and line of sight, and then we do have a couple of patches of rough ground, which will not block line of sight at all. They just slow movement. For their part, the forces of hell have opted to put their Psyker right up front. He's going to be the delaying force. Our zombies, remember, everybody on this side of the ledger has movement as a free action. So we did take some cover with our 2 zombies and our hordes and our demon prince right here, but the first turn of the game will go towards the attacker. And here's a shot of the full table. As you can see, we've got our zombies on the flanks. We do have a linear obstacle here. Costs an extra inch to move through there. The container, the buildings all block line of sight, as do the little clumps of trees, these small kind clumps too. Just an inch, sometimes that makes all the difference in the world. In order to deploy our 2nd and 3rd squads, the boys in blue are going to need to make successful move activation orders to bring them on the table. That requires a 5 up on 2d6. Our leader only needs a 4 up to move. Now, he does not have open order movement, or fleet-footed in the parlance of other rampant games, so he will be reduced to half movement. We're going to try to get him over to here. We need a 4 up to do that. And with a 5, he will successfully come up to here, and then because of the elevated position, we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt and allow them kind of arcs of field of fire through here, maybe down in this direction, if that becomes, hey, stand up there, buddy, if that becomes relevant. With that said, we need to figure out where our other 2 squads are going to come on. And the rules aren't explicit on this, but I'm going to designate you have to say where the unit has come on, and then you roll to see if you are successful. There's that leader unit. Here's our Psych the Psyker. We're going to designate behind this barricade right here for our 2nd unit of elite infantry. If that's successful, we'll drop them, and then we're going to designate this point right here for our 2nd unit. So the 1st unit rolls and is successful coming on the table, and our 2nd unit is going to be successful as well. So we have successfully cut off the retreat for these guys, and just by expending 1 point on each of our squads, we've completely demolished this whole scenario. But this time we did it in favor of the elite infantry. Or have we? We have some options here. We can bring our Lord of the Hosts back to this point. Everybody gets a free movement. So we'll bring our zombies up to here. We can bring this zombie unit. And man, this is so much easier with these Sabbath bases, isn't it? We're going to kind of rotate them a little bit. They're going to try to slip through there. Now, they don't have enough movement to come into contact with this second squad of the elite infantry. The good news is our berserk infantry, our zealots, they have wild charge. If they are within 4 inches of that squad, they have to charge. But they're not within 4 inches, meaning we're going to be able to pull them 4 inches around this way. And here's one of the other weaknesses that you'll find when you wield a unit, a force consisting entirely of elite infantry. There's only 3 of them. They can't be everywhere at once, so you're limited in what you can do with them. We have one more guy left to go, and in this case, I think this time around, I'm going to use my Psyker. He is worth 2 victory points to Xenos if he gets off the table. He's worth 2 victory points to the DoublePlusUltra Marines if they kill him. We're going to use him as a blocking force. He's going to try to slow these guys down to allow the other 4 units to get off the table. To that end, he's going to take advantage of his magic spell ability. And he is going to, so he's got a range of 12 inches on this. He's fine. I think it's 12 inches. Well, at half, you know what? But we got to cut that in half, don't we? So terror on a 7 or higher, he will suppress this unit. He gets an 8. The leader unit begins the next turn suppressed. That earns them the red gem of suppression. Now, normally when you are suppressed, let's see, do you have to retreat? No, you don't. Retreat is an entirely different thing. Retreat is when you fail a rally test. Now, this little spell here, suppressing these guys, might not do as much good as we'd hope. They have a courage of... We're going to take our time to actually look at the sheet here and make sure we get this right. They have a courage of 3 up. So they have to make a rally check. Visions of Terror has a range of 9 inches, and because it was successful, the leader unit here for the elite infantry has earned the red gem of you better make a rally check. Now, they have a courage of 3 up, so anything but snake eyes means that they're not suppressed for long. Hey, they're elite infantry. Not too big a surprise. And elite infantry also have this great special ability where even after they're suppressed, they can take an action. Hey, it was worth a shot. At least he's drawing aggro, as the kids say on the video games. Hey, the elite infantry now get to take a shot at this guy. And that's a free action for the elite infantry. They're going to roll all 10 dice. They are going to be hitting on 4s or better. And they are shooting at a guy who's got an armor of 2. So every pair of 4s, there's 1 pair, 2 pair. That's going to do a total of 2 wounds to our Psyker. And he will have to make a morale check at -2. He has a courage of... Psyche's got a courage of 3 up, so he needs a 5 or better. Remember, it's a -1 for every wound he took on this attack. He gets a 7, so he is fine, except Psyche here is built on the light infantry template. He's only got 5 strength points, but that does mean on a 7 or better, he has an option to return fire. Why don't we do that? Now, you only have that option when the first unit shoots at you. So if he takes another shooting attack, he's not going to be able to do this again. He is successful. He will roll 10 dice. He will be hitting on 6s, unfortunately. He's not so great. And he needs to score 4 hits to eliminate just one of those guys. Did we get 4 6s? We got 1, 2, 3, 4. So how about that? We're going to pull off we'll just pull off the guy in the back there. And that does force a morale check for the elite infantry. They need to roll a 4 or better to pass. And with a 10, they will pass, but that does help a little bit, I guess. And that's their activation complete. What about the other 2 squads? I stand corrected. Elite infantry are rangers. They keep their normal armor when they're in a building, which means these guys inside a building have an armor of 6. That one attack didn't do any good. I'm putting the dude back down on the table. But this unit down here does have the option of shooting at this unit of zombies. Zombies only have, and again, the zombies are built on a template of 1 point. What did I say? Light infantry. And so they have an armor of 1. So every single die roll of 4 or better will do 1 hit to these guys. And we get a whole lot of them, don't we? 5, 6. So we pull off 6 zombies. I'm going to remove the Sabbat move template for these guys once they reach half strength, and then that will help remind me. Then they need to make a morale check at a total of -6. Now it'll be -5 because they're within 6 inches of their boss man. And with a result of a 3, -6 and -3 means this unit goes bye-bye. And man, that's a mighty fine shooting there. So that's 2 victory points to the boys in blue already. So we'll shift our focus to this side of the table where our second unit is going to open fire on the second unit of zombies. And the zombies are not behind cover. Since these guys are lined up against the barricade, the zombies don't get benefit for that. Again, every 4 or better is going to do a strength point of damage. We get a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. We pull off 5 zombies, and the zombies are now going to have to make a morale check at -5. 6 -5 is 1. They don't have traditional courage. Because they succeeded, they are good to go. They don't disappear unless they get a negative result. They are never suppressed. They're unthinking dead hordes who care little for their own lives. But remember, they're demonic. So that means a couple of things. We're done with the boys in blue. These guys, these zombies now, have an opportunity to respond. But before they do, we're going to move our leader to here. He's got a total movement of 5, so he can do that. And then we're going to move our fanatic infantry heading up the alleyway here. And our psyker off here in the distance is going to try to teleport. He needs a 7 or better. With an 8, he gets it. Now, the reason we're doing that, he can move 4 inches. If we roll high enough, with a 9, we get it. He can teleport, well, I guess that's 4.5 inches for us. And because he can teleport that 4.5 inches, he's going to be able to get over into cover here behind these 2 little mini factories. That's important. With only 4 inches, he would have had to stop right about here, and he would be caught in the crossfire by the guys in this building and these guys right down here. You could just barely, there they are, right there. So because he is over here, he is in cover. Which brings us to our last activation. Our horde of zombies can move to here. And if they can weather one more attack from this elite infantry, they'll be able to move off the table for 2 points. Alternatively, they can attack these guys and get just absolutely pantsed in combat because they're not going to do much good. Yeah, we're just going to move them to the edge of the table. On the next turn, if they survive, that's what they're going to do. Notch the 2 extra victory points. That makes it easy. We'll start here with this unit that says, hey, they're trying to slip past us. Let's turn them around, and we'll take the shot. Once again, that is a free activation. We need 4s or better, and we only get 1, 2 of them all together this time. So this time, we are now left with 2, 4, 6, 8. We still have 9 guys. Wait, is that right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Yeah, that's right, because we lost 5 the first time. I think we're missing 1. I think I need to pull 1 more off. Regardless, they're going to pass this test because they're only at -2. Okay, the zombies are still at greater than half strength. They still roll 2 dice. 2 dice -2. Well, no, if we rolled snake eyes, then they would have had 0 and they would have disappeared. As it is, they remain on the table, and they will, on their next activation, be able to escape. We still have a couple of other elite infantry that can activate, though. The leader of the elite foot is going to take a shot at Psych the Psyker, and is he more than 9 inches away? He is, which means this is going to be kind of a tough one for these guys. You know, we may want to go ahead and just charge him. Because the Psyker is behind heavy cover, his armor goes up to 4, and because he's at long range, that armor becomes 5. Can we roll 5 hits? We're looking for 4 ups on 10 dice. That's an average result. If we get average, then we'll do 1 strength point to this guy. Yeah, let's do it. And we get a 1, 2, 3, so that goes nowhere. But our Psyker, because he took that hit, he still needs to make a courage check. With an 8, he's fine. We have 1 more unit left to try to do something. And that's our 3rd squad of elite infantry who have to try to move. They don't have a shot at anybody. This is on a 5 or better, and they can move up to 6 inches. And since they can move that 6 inches, let's go ahead and take advantage of it. Let's bring them around, and this is the beauty of having elite infantry. by bringing them into this position here. That's the end of the elite infantry's turn. The first thing that has to happen is these berserk infantry have to make a wild charge and fight our elite infantry in hand-to-hand combat. With a result of a 4, they fail. Now that's okay. They only activate on a 5-up, but it's okay because, from the perspective of the elites, they've successfully pinned this unit in place. Now we have a difficult choice to make for these guys. I will say, well, beyond 5 inches, remember that our Demon Lord also has into the fray. He's got wild charge, and because we didn't place him appropriately, he's going to have to wild charge here. He has a free activation in melee. Remember, that's his Warlord trait. So now we're going to see what the Demon Lord does against elite infantry. We'll do the attacker first. He is hitting on 3s. Remember, he needs at least 4 of them. He gets a total of, well, that's not a bad roll, but it's not going to do the 2 points that he had hoped for. He gets a total of 4 and then another 3, so we will remove 1 figure, and that forces a morale check, which does not go well. The elite infantry have a courage of 3. Is it 3 or is it 4? They have a courage of 3. That roll is at -1. These guys are suppressed. Then they do get to counterattack, and they are hitting on 4s. There's my red gem. So those guys are suppressed, and they are going to score a total of 4 hits altogether. Is that right? In melee, what do we got here? They hit on 4s. Our Xenomorph has an armor of 4. He will take 1 wound, and he will have to make a morale check, and he's going to be just fine. Then our zombies get to go, and do we charge in with the zombies? Do the zombies have wild charge? You know, we might have cheated on that last one. They might have been required to attack. The zombies do not have wild charge. They do have contagious. If they do a strength point of damage on the elite infantry, they regain a zombie. That's kind of cool. But that's not the case. So we're going to go ahead and log our 2 victory points. Let's just bring them off the table. We might as well. Kablow. And then, the other thing is, because he is done, he has to back off just that 1 inch because they survived. The last thing we have to resolve is our Psyker. Do we use him to support our Fanatic Infantry, or do we teleport him to safety? Let's hit the teleport. Yeah. With a 7, he is successful. And with the result of an 11, he's going to be able to teleport a full 5.5 inches. That ain't bad, brother. We're going to put him right here, just in contact with the safety of this vehicle right there. And that does provide some interesting questions for our elite infantry. Do we start with these guys? Do we just get stuck in? Do we charge in? Or do we open fire? I think you go ahead and open fire on this unit, trying to score as many victory points as possible. You're looking for 4s. Those berserkers are going to charge you next round anyway. Let's try to soften them up before we do anything else. We get a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 hits. And because the berserkers have an armor of... well, they're fanatics. They have an armor of 2. That will remove 2 of these figures from the unit. That means they have to make a morale check at -2. And with a result of a 10, they'll be fine. The berserkers do have firefight. On a 7 or better... well, they failed. On a 7 or better, they'd get to countershoot, but since they failed, they don't. So that's going to be the end of that unit's activation. Our leader is taking the long shot. Remember, you can shoot as far as you can see if your range is like 18 inches, which it is. Hitting on 4s. And this guy will have an armor of... normally it's an armor of 2. It'll be 3 because of the distance. And that's going to be 1 hit, 2 hits, and... that knocks our Psyker down to just 1 remaining... the 2 hits knocks our Psyker down to just 1 die at -2. And with a 0, the Psyker goes bye-bye. That's going to be another pair of victory points for the boys in blue. And they still have 1 more activation. Technically, I should have started with his rally check over here, but it doesn't matter because everybody has free activations anyway. On a result of a 4, they will rally... and then, because, now here's the difference. Because they rallied, I don't think they get their free activation this turn. They still have to roll to activate, which is why units like elites, even though attacking is a free activation for these guys, and by the way, they're going to shoot since this guy's a terror in combat. Even though attacking is a free activation, they still have an attack on a 5-up because now that they've rallied, they need that 5 or better to do so. And they get the 5, so that's no real surprise there. But, you know, it is just one more chance that these guys struggle to activate after they find their courage again. And this time they're only going to score 3 hits. Now, because that's 3 hits, because it's shooting, our Demon Lord still has to make a morale check. And because he rolled a 2, that becomes a 3. Now, the rally check is at minus, the courage check is at just straight evens. But because he's the leader, he gets a +1 to that roll, so that becomes a 3. So he won't fail his courage checks. 3 is a success for him. He won't fail his courage checks unless he takes a single wound. So he's okay for the next turn, which it's his turn now, and he's going to, but what did we say? He took no damage. And because, again, he is going to have to check for wild charge, and with an 11, he gets it, so he wades back into combat. He will be hitting on 3s or better. And for every 4 of them, so he's got 4 here, that does another wound to this unit. The unit gets to counterattack, hitting on 4s in the melee. And they get a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 hits. So that does another wound to the big guy, who gets to make his courage check at -1. Well, it's an even because he's the leader, right? So he makes his courage check. He's fine. He will back off a little bit. And then we have to look at our Fanatics as the only other unit left on the table. And that's these guys right here. They have to wild charge. We're still in the wild charge phase. And with a 6, they will succeed. So they are going to get stuck in here with this unit of elite foot. And I don't think this is going to go well. The Fanatics attack. Well, actually, they hit on 4s, and they are still at full strength. So if they can score 1, 2, 3. Oh, they didn't get that all-important 4th hit. Which means they're subject to a counterattack. I wonder where that last die went. Here it is. Which again hits on 4s, and we get 1 murder death kill, 2 murder death kills. We're going to pull off another pair of those guys. The Fanatics have to make a morale check at -2 now, with a result of an 8. A 6 means they're okay, but they will fall back. And they are down to just 6 of their troopers. That's the end of the turn for our host. We got 3 things we can do. We're going to go ahead and attack here. That's a free activation. And again, we're hitting on 4s. There's going to be a total of 1, 2, and that's it. So 2 more of these guys go bye-bye. And the elites now suffer a counterattack, again at 4s. And this time we get our 4 hits that removes a figure. The elites make a morale check at -1. With a result of a 4, they're fine. Their courage is 3. The Fanatics have a courage of 3, and they're at half strength though, so they only roll 1 die. 3 minus the 2 hits is 4. Their courage is 3. The Fanatics are okay, meaning they've thrown these guys back from that attack. Then we're going to take another pot shot at Xenos the Morph. That's a free activation. Looking for 4s or better, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, and then another 3, which knocks the Demon Prince down to just 1 die on his morale check. He gets a result of a 3. It's +1, -1, total result of a 2. His courage is a 3-up. Xeno races off, and that's going to be the end of the game. The elite infantry have now scored a total of 6 victory points. The forces of hell have only scored 2, and unless these 4 guys can kill this unit and this unit of elite infantry, By the way, they're only fighting at half strength from here on out. We both know that's not going to happen, so they are going to concede. We'll knock over the leader of the Fanatics there. I think you can see now that when you set the game up this way, when you pay a little bit more attention to your... Well, there's two ways to look at this. You can build your forces around the scenario, in which case you can, when you tailor your forces to the scenario, it really does change the dynamic of that scenario. There are trump abilities that defeat the purpose of a scenario. This orbital insertion really made a huge difference. Rather than spending the first half of the game just trying to get close enough to draw the Fanatics in, our elite infantry just went whoong and just spawned right next to the infantry. Kind of blows up the scenario. However, had they been on the defensive, it would have meant an instant win for these elite infantry, because they would have just gone boom and spawned on their own baseline, and then on turn 2 they would have walked off with all of the victory points. So that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is that it's all about the probabilities. If you are playing a random scenario, if you show up to your friend's house with a given list and you don't know what the scenario is, it's impossible to tailor your army list to that scenario, right? Which may mean that you roll the dice and you come up with a scenario like this one, Operation Golf, fighting withdrawal, where one side clearly has all the advantages and you say, you know what, clearly you're going to win this one. Maybe we play for 15 minutes, but, I mean, here we are like 30, 35, what are we, like 30 minutes into this video? You know what you could do? You could just play again. Just line them up, roll the dice, try a different scenario. If you have your terrain set up in a nice, even fashion like we did here, then it really opens up a lot of possibilities for allowing you to select the scenario, even after you've selected the commander traits. Hey, that's all I got for you today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for exploring this game space with me. It's been a lot of fun. You know, the lot of interesting tactical choices in this particular scenario with these particular forces. Look forward to seeing you in the next video. Till then, I'm praying for you.